So, last session was the final session, so sessions cancel. We're just not doing it because we finished the campaign, and we're gonna take a little break. So it's not canceled, but we're done for a little bit. So I don't know, load up some Baldur's Gate, I guess.
I can finally play Baldur's
Gate. Yeah, true. Yeah. That's really the goal. Is somebody finishes a session right now or finishes a campaign right now, they can then be like, "Oh, all this Baldur's Gate time I have." Yeah, it's kind of a joke, but it's also kind of not a joke. Baldur's Gate legitimately can give you that D&D fix if you don't have a group, right? Because it's so not true to it invokes. It invokes an amazingly made campaign so to a T. Like, it's just... Larian understood the homework assignment, I guess, is what I'm saying. We're back. I am Josh. Isaiah is here.
So,
Matt is not here because Matt did the man thing where he got sick and then refused to do anything about it, and now he is still sick, so he finally caved and decided to go to the doctor. But that means he is still sick. So he is not here. Like a bitch.
Matt did the unfortunate American thing where he went, "I'm sick, but I need money."
I don't know if it's I don't know. Well, maybe the need money part is an American specific thing, but it is kind of just I think that is just a across the board male thing. I don't think there's any cultural, just, I don't need to go to the doctor. You know? I mean, maybe not, but it feels like it is. Roasting Matt aside. Yeah, we're going to talk ending campaigns because thought we were going to do it last week, and then Isaiah changed his mind. So here we are instead.
For the record, I didn't change my mind. I just didn't end up going with that thing. I had one of two options, and I just went with the other option.
In my mind, we were already locked in, so he changed his mind. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Got it.
You can't convince me. But yes, ending campaigns. Yeah, me and Isaiah are about to do that. We're both real close to finishing 2 to 3 year campaign. Or did you go 4? Did yours end up?
I'm going on 4. It'll be 4 in
Yeah.
April. I need to end it before April because if it goes to 4, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, so mine's hitting 3. Isaiah's hitting 4. Which is, I mean. There's those people out there who have I've been running the same campaign for 10 years. And I'm like, you are a weird kind of masochist. Don't understand, and I have no desire to do that. But I have fun, I guess. But,
Yeah, I had I have a lot of fun doing this campaign, but even I'm running out of ideas.
Running out of ideas.
I had some stuff saved up that I'm using.
Right.
But after this, I'm genuinely, I don't know what to do anymore. They've kicked everything's ass.
Right. Well, it's and even if you're not running out of ideas, for me personally, I just run out of the emotional energy and steam because I just need to change things up. I've sort of discovered something about myself. I am not the kind of person who can obsess with any one media for a super hyper extended period of time. I just don't those people who are I put 5,000 hours in Warframe. I've played 5,000 hours of Dota, or I've played 10,000 hours of WoW for the last 10, or more probably for 10 years. I just can't do that. I'm just not that guy.
Wait, pause. How many hours do you have in 14?
I don't think there's any way of me checking without loading up the game, but I'm not subbed right now, so that tells you something, I feel. I think the last time I looked, it said 15 days, I want to say. What's that in hours?
15 days.
I don't know.
24 times 15.
It's a lot.
360. You definitely have more than 360 hours.
I probably have. Yeah, I definitely have more than 360 hours. What did it? You could check in game, but I don't think there's any way to check out of game. So I don't.
I was gonna say I think I have 360 hours in 14.
I mean, I've probably broken 1,000, I would think. But
You might have 15 weeks in 14.
what would that be?
So 24 times 7, 2,520 hours.
I don't think I'm that high. I don't know.
Doesn't Sam have like a few months in this game?
I think he's got at least a month.
That's crazy.
I don't know if he's got a few, but I'm pretty sure he's got a month. But see, that's like a rarity for me though too. And also, even though I do have a lot of hours in 14, I haven't played it in months. You know, like I stopped playing a while ago because I just can't. I just can't do. I at a certain point, like I'm just like I'm good. You know, like there's no. I don't know. Like I've thought about this. I just don't stick to with like hobby media type stuff. I do stick to things. This is making it sound like a really non-committal person, which is not true because I've been going to the gym consistently for fucking 11, 12 years, you know. So like it's just with media stuff like video games, books, movies, shows. I'm not very committed. I'll be really into like when I'm into a thing, it's the only thing I'm doing and the only thing I give a shit about. But once I'm done, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like when we were playing Conan Exiles consistently for, however many weeks it was, I was deep in the Conan hole. I was watching like shit on YouTube and looking up articles and stuff. Like I was deep in the hole. And then as soon as we stopped, I just popped out of it like a fucking spring-loaded geyser. Just whoop, gone. And I just haven't even looked at it.
I want to get back into Conan, to be honest.
I don't feel like we have anything else to do. We're kind of tangenting.
It's fine. Well, look, we can do what we did in my server, but we can do it again in SIPTA because last time at SIPTA it was just you and me, and now we'll have a whole group of goons and goobers.
Maybe.
To,
I don't know if I want to
kill everything with.
I don't know if I want to go back to SIPTA. I don't like the way SIPTA's designed.
Yeah, but we've done everything twice over in Exile.
I know. Well, you could start doing other stuff like goofy challenges and shit. Like, look, there's ways to go about it. This is a weird, nobody wants to hear this conversation. Why do we do it here?
It's fine.
At this
point, we're 90 episodes in. This is what they've come here for.
We're not quite at 90 yet, but we're close. I think this is 87. I did have a point. There was a reason I was bringing that up. Oh, okay. Yes, okay. I can do this. I can mentally bring myself back here. The point I was getting at is like, I'm not the kind of person who's interested in doing the 10-year D&D campaign. So I have actually run and finished quite a few campaigns of varying lengths, but I have actually, and when I say finished, I mean brought to a proper conclusion. When I was trying to think about it in my head, I could think of like 5 or 6 campaigns that I've brought to like a proper endpoint that I decided it was over and we didn't just like burn out. You know what I mean? Although funny enough, I've only been in one campaign that included, albeit it was on the shorter end. I think we did 12 or 13 sessions. That was the Apocalypse World game I was in. But yeah, I've concluded quite a few. So, this is a near and dear to my heart sort of topic, as it were. This is something I think a lot about, and I think is very important. Very important to consider because, as many people put it, starting things super easy, ending things very difficult. Hence why a lot of TV shows have amazing beginnings and mediocre to shit endings. Common problem. Have you brought any games to like a proper conclusion? Running, I mean?
No, I mean, this is my first campaign, so I cannot say I have.
Right. I did know that. But you were in a couple that did end properly.
Only ones run by
the Fire
Sam
Emblem.
and Ant. Yeah.
Yeah, the Fire Emblem campaign finished properly.
Yeah, Ant ended Fire Emblem Generation 1, and then we didn't end up finishing Gen 2. I finished Strahd.
Oh yeah, Strahd.
Avernus.
And Avernus, yep. Oh yeah, I forgot about Strahd and Avernus. Yeah, we did finish those properly.
I think that's it though, because we didn't finish Magic and Academia. We didn't finish. I mean, we barely started Vampire.
Yeah.
We didn't finish Ulanor, which is my first Notorious campaign. I didn't get to finish the Wild Mount one that I was in. Barely started the Persona one I was in. Yeah, so like
a couple, but yeah, not a ton.
3, yeah.
Yeah,
3
I
total.
mean, yeah, that's true. So actually adding in the Sam ones, I've been in like 8 or 9 finished campaigns. Yeah, so endings. I mean, I don't know. Perhaps the best way to do this, because I have a jillion thoughts about how to go about this kind of thing, but perhaps a good way to start is, and I'm absolutely putting you on the spot here, but is there any, as the teachers say, questions, comments, or concerns you have about trying to bring something to a wrap that I could maybe illuminate upon or babble about in general?
I mean, for me, it's the one that I'm fighting with right now is tying up loose ends. Because I've got one with Snubby, the like vampire character, or the bat person character that I'm running. There's one final thing I want to do with Siffy, who is Mavis the bird lady. Paladin has one thing I want to do, and then Moon has like a huge plot point that I haven't really been able to fight my way into just because the players have shit going on and I can't really find a way to get them back to the ship city. So there's about like 5 or 6 that I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna get this done?
I mean, not to downplay it, but that's probably one of the easier sides of things, or one of the easier aspects of wrapping a campaign up, just because at the end of the day, as long as you give the player, if it's about a player's individual character story or whatever, as long as you give them a conclusion of some kind, 9 times out of 10 players are happy. Like, it doesn't take a lot to wrap up like a character story and have a player be satisfied. I think most players just want to feel like there's an ending of some nature. It doesn't necessarily need to be like amazing or good or anything. So just kind of don't worry about making them, some sort of Sherlock Holmesian-esque, like, holy shit moment at the end. And in terms of like incorporating them, I mean, just kind of, I would just run a montage, as it were, of just, all right, nothing else is going on currently in the world. Players, we're all going to go through each of your remaining backstories, and then just have each of the players almost be the director, main character of a session or 2 or whatever, to finish, and do it for each of them so they each get to finish up their little thing. Like, all right, today, fucking Rip is the main character, and everybody bows to him, and just that's how we're going to do it for the next session or 2 or however long it takes to finish. And then once we're done, your character will be the main character, and just kind of go through them. And then once you're done with all of them, and then the bad, like, basically just be like, all right, cool, we did the montage wrapping up everyone's shit, and conveniently, as soon as we're done doing that, the big bad guy shows up.
Yeah, right.
That's what I would do. Because I think that's just, especially if there's no time sensitive thing going on narratively, like, the big bad, like, if there's no the Beast from Infamous 2 approaching, then you don't really need to. That was a weird reference. I don't know why I just thought of Infamous 2.
Well, so here's the thing.
Is there a time sensitive part to it?
A little bit, yeah. That's kind of.
Can you dilate that time?
Not really.
I mean,
because the whole thing is, it's a literal doomsday clock. So the whole thing is like everything is suddenly crashing down around the players at like every possible moment. So to be like, but now you guys get a few weeks of downtime while the world is ending, when that was kind of the whole interlude into that thing that I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean,
what I think I could do is a few sessions after the final boss to just like tie up loose ends.
That's what I was just about to transition into. It's one of the most important. I think one of the secret weapon to properly ending a campaign, the thing that I've noticed, is just to have a proper epilogue to things, because everyone's happy if it's like, all right, we go and we kill the big bad and we stop Vecna, the end of the world's over, but players generally want to have little moments to be like, what's my character up to afterward, and just to really feel like things are concluded, unless there are some times where that's not like the appropriate way to do it. Like there's a certain type of narrative where things just abruptly finish, and that's just kind of, it is what it is. A la Edge Runners, for example. But yeah, I think the epiloguing things is kind of the fucking secret sauce in a lot of ways. I've done an epilogue, I think every time, or tried to do it every time. And yeah, there's always, especially because you get to let you get to let the player characters be, in the GM seat a little bit when you're like, all right, it's the epilogue. What are you up to? And you don't need to worry about dice or mechanics or any shit. They're just that you can just say what your character's up to, even if it's nonsense or whatever. So yeah, maybe that's the move, is whatever the doomsday clock is, and then you just have a session afterward. And shit, maybe you don't even really wrap it. Maybe you don't even wrap it up in any sort of mechanical fashion. Maybe you just let the players say what happens, like I do this and I do that, blah blah blah, and don't bother being like, trying to make a roll or whatever. I mean, you can do that if you want, but I would say you don't have to, because as long as it feels like a suitable level of challenge has been overcome, sort of tacking more game on at the end afterward is unnecessary unless you really want to, and the players really want to.
Yeah. So my thought is that I'm probably going to end the game, like as far as all the plot stuff goes, and then the players can like, oh, I want to go do this thing. Like I know for one character I have like you go back to your home, but like the bad faction took over, and now you have to fight them to the death, like a quick one-on-one boss fight kind of situation.
I mean, yeah, you can, but what I'm saying is you could also potentially just be like, you go back to your home, the bad guys took over, what do you do about it? And then the player just narrates how they beat the bad guy's ass and fought him like a cool guy and took over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you got to kind of gauge it, I guess, but I don't know. If you do a big final boss thing, I feel like a lot of the time after that, players are okay if there isn't any more like by the books mechanical gameplay stuff going on, because you sort of did the penultimate of that.
Yeah, I can see.
I mean, maybe ask them, but I wouldn't be surprised if you're like, how do you want to do a little epilogue thing? And they just want to narrate shit. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I don't remember what game, but I did do that for one of my games where they just sort of like narratively wrap shit, and I just let them kind of have the W. Because the rest of the W was already taken care of. What shit? What was it? Fuck. Train. Station. Gone. Thoughts.
Good.
I don't know. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? While I try to get back what I was thinking before.
I mean, it definitely, like, it's not even a question, comment, or concern. It's just sort of like thinking about like how hard do I want to go for the final fight? Like, Like,
Hard.
obviously, you want to pull out almost all the stops,
Yes.
but there's two mindsets of like, well, I can make it so that, you know, if they win or lose, it doesn't really matter. It's like with the game now, just the game's over. But like, I don't really want to do that, but I also don't want to like go easy on them.
No, I say go hard as balls, like balls to the wall. Because
See, and I get why you would say that, but I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it'd be disappointing if they got to the end and the challenge was so difficult that they all just die horribly.
well,
Like, I'm not going to go easy on them by any means, but I don't want to like...
it's kind of not. Well, so here's the thing. It can be interesting if the villain wins in that final fight, you know? Like, there could be some really interesting stuff there. You know, for example, oh, you didn't play Final Fantasy 15, did you?
No, but I know like, I know the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
See, here's the thing. Yes, I will. Yes, Arden does win.
He gets his dub, big time.
He does, but he does still penultimately lose.
Right, so that's the thing. He gets his W, but then something happens to him afterward. That you could do stuff like that, you know? Or for example, you know, I mean, not to be that guy, but you know, Thanos wins at the end of Infinity War, right? Like, there's an interesting space there if the bad guy wins. And I think when you're dealing with tabletop, because nothing is set in stone, and you know, the dice could not go the player's way, for example, or the enemy could get really lucky or whatever. I think it could be interesting to be like, all right, so you guys actually failed, and then you explain what happens in that aftermath. You know, and maybe then you also get into the, not that I'm saying you're going to do this, but then you also get into the territory of like, if you do a sequel campaign in the world where the first heroes failed, right? A lot of people do that. I remember when Critical Role ended, Matt Colville was talking about that. He was like, I wanted them to win, but I did have the thought that it would be really interesting if Vecna won and like threw the world into like this apocalyptic darkness and what that would be like afterward. Pause in a weird spot. So I say sort of pull out all the stops. I say go buck wild. Because if the other reason that you want to do that, and this is me speaking from experience because I have done so. If you do that at the end and the players, you know, succeed, they're going to feel like they really earned that shit, you know? Like they knew that failure was legitimately on the table. And so if you succeed, it's like, fuck yeah, we actually pulled it off, because it's not a video game, right? In a video game, you lose to the final boss, you just restart the boss fight. But in tabletop, you lose to the final boss, you lose. That's kind of it. You know, obviously, as a group, you could all decide to retcon, but like, you know, generally, the way we do it is that's it. You know, once that's it, that's it. So there's consequence. So if the players do manage to survive and win, it's more hype. You know, like you get hyped to shit about it because you're like, fuck yeah, there was a legitimate chance of failure, but we did it, you know?
Yeah, so I think, all right, I might not have worded it like particularly well. I want there to be real challenge. I want there to be the price of failure, but I don't want the like a Berserk-esque ending where it's like, oh great, only one person survived, you know? Because the players will certainly win. You know, I'd have to pull some genuine nonsense for them to not kill whatever I throw at them, right? They just do so much damage, much like our party in your game. They have just so many ways to cover their bases. But
yeah,
I don't know if I want a Pyrrhic victory at the end.
Well, you definitely don't want to make the final situation so, like, you don't want to overtune it so much that they have, like, a minuscule chance of victory, like, you completely dunk on them. Obviously, that's not fun, but I think you need to make it hard enough that failure is legitimately, like, on the table. You know, like, that you want to make the possibility, you want a final fight situation for them to sweat a little bit and feel like a TPK is potentially could happen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I want that. I don't want the 40K victory.
What do you mean by the 40K
I don't want the
victory?
grimdark victory of like we won it, but at what cost? Which I think.
Why not?
That's not the story I'm trying to tell.
But like, what about that is a problem?
I just don't particularly want to tell that kind of story.
Like,
Nothing really the problem.
Like if they win the final fight and only one player character survived, that's bad.
They might like it, but I will feel like I failed in some way. Because to me, that would feel like they had almost no chance of winning.
Well, they had a chance of winning. That's the thing. As long as you design it,
almost no chance is what I said. They had almost no chance.
What makes you say what about that assumes they had almost no chance of winning?
If only one person survived, that mathematically states that they had a very, 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 very little chance of winning.
Not necessarily. That's the kind of thing about tabletop. They could have gotten really unlucky, you know, or they could have played their cards wrong and like fucked up. You know, you can have a balanced, you can have like a relatively difficult but like still relatively balanced fight where they had a chance of winning, but things either went poorly or they made a bad decision somewhere along the road, and then 3 out of 4 characters died or whatever. Like that can happen.
Yeah, I feel that I don't know, that would feel kind of shitty to me.
I think it's just, I see that's what I'm saying.
Like being in that situation as a player, I feel like that would feel shitty for me.
I think you're trying to control it too much. Like you got to just let it happen, because that's kind of the beauty of tabletop is we don't know what's going to happen. So just sort of letting it be is interesting, because both the GM and the players are like, well, that wasn't necessarily what we were expected, but here we are. You know what I mean? I think you should just let it. Like, I mean, I'll say right now, for my game right now, there is 0 guarantee you guys win. Like, I have put no guardrails in place. You know what I mean? Yeah. You guys very well could all die in the final fight. Unlikely, but you could. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although we are in that game, there's a lot more stuff that we can do to flat out level the playing field that doesn't exist in Hellscapes.
Such as
things like Wish, things that just tells the GM like, no, that's not happening.
I mean, I guess
like you get some stuff, and don't get me wrong, you get some crazy shit in Hellscapes that allows for just straight up absolutes. But I feel like in traditional 5e, there are like, because you have magic, because you have straight up just game changing aspects that you as a player are privy to, it would feel more fair. Like it would feel fair to me if we lost in that instance.
But all that means is you just have to tune Final Fight differently. Like if players have access to different stuff, you just have to tune the situation to relative to what the players have.
Yeah, it's a little easier said than done, I feel.
I mean, I'm not saying anything about it being easy, but what I'm saying
I'm
is...
personally struggling in high-level Hellscapes to like... Because there's stuff where it's like, I could just have an ability that kills a player outright, but there's no way of coming back from death in Hellscapes. So I have to
something
really...
like that would be cheap. But something that's like, if they fail a saving throw multiple times, they get stun locked or whatever because of bad dice rolls. Like, you know, it's about balancing out in such a way that it feels like there's a chance. Because an instant kill thing, it's like, oh, I had no chance. But something where it's like, oh, I could have gotten out of this if I had done X or Y, or I could have gotten out of this if my dice rolls are good, but I got really unlucky and I got screwed. That's less cheap. I mean, varying degrees. Obviously, it's not a binary thing.
Well, yeah, but so yes, the thing is that with 5e specifically, there's not much more you can do to somebody than be like, you're dead, right? You can, disintegrate them, where it's like, oh, you need like a fucking wish spell or whatever to get somebody back. But because of the way that Hellscapes is, it locks you as the DM off from a lot of those things.
Right, but I don't think that's so. But you just don't consider those challenges. The challenges you consider are, things that they can potentially deal with. So like fat big chunks of like automatic damage, or something that locks a player out. This is talking very mechanical, but something that locks a player out of the turn order for a turn or two. Something that greatly negates their damage output. Stuff where that they do have abilities to manipulate or reduce or fight against it. You just don't put in something like a disintegrate. You put in a thing that does a fuckload of damage and downs them, and then they're like they can't be picked up for one turn or something. Shit like that. That's what I mean by adjusting to what the players have access to. Like, yes, it would absolutely be shitty to put a spell like Disintegrate in that game because you don't have Revivify. But you could put in Omega Death Laser and it downs a player in one shot, and if it downs a player in one shot, then they cannot be picked up for one turn or something like that. Like that would be more reasonable. That kind of shit. It's like tune and adjust to your scenario. And because I think most of the time players want to feel like that ending, whatever the ending challenge is, they want to feel like they earned that ending challenge. So if you tune down the fight just to basically guarantee their victory, I think most people are going to feel shitty about that.
Of course, but that's the big
especially
distinction,
especially if they find out specifically that you did that afterward.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, right? Is that I don't want that. I don't want to guarantee them victory by any means. I want there to be a real chance of failure. I'm just wondering I'm struggling to find a median line between is it a victory if only one of the 6 players survives?
I mean, I would say yes.
See, but I don't think I would as a player.
Why? Your big cool heroes stopped the big evil guy and had to do the cool valiant sacrifice thing in order to do it.
Yeah, but you don't get a say in like the epilogue. You don't get like.
Well, who says you don't get a say in the epilogue?
Well, you don't really, right? Like,
why not?
Because or if you do get a say, there's a bit of a limit to what you can give to the epilogue because your medium for which to interact with the story is gone. Is there? Yes, because the medium in which to interact with the story is gone. There is a limit to the things that you can do, yes.
But there isn't, because you as a GM could just say, all right, character who died, what does your family do in the epilogue? What does your tribe do in the epilogue? Or this character that you were close with, what do they do afterward? How do they remember you? How did they relate to you? Maybe did they do something that you were trying to do? Like, for example, let's say a character dies in the final fight, but that character had a sister throughout the entire game, and this character was trying to do, something that was going to be like a big meaningful event, like maybe, I don't know, change the like political structure of a settlement. And the character dies in the final fight, but the sister is like, the sister could potentially carry on that legacy. And then so you say to the player, all right, so your character died. What does your sister do? Like we zoom in on her, the epilogue is now about her and her relation to you. What is that character? And you just let them control the world through that. Because the point of the epilogue is to give the players control over the setting. Because it's an epilogue, so it doesn't matter if they do even if they do something crazy, which they probably won't even do anything that crazy. They're just going to do something that feels like makes sense to their character. But even if they do something crazy, it's fine because it's an epilogue. So I was being a little cheeky when I was saying, does it? But yeah, like it does just because their character dies doesn't mean they lose all sort of like agency in the final arc of things. Or in your game, it's like, oh, your character is part of a very specific tribe. What does the tribe do after you're gone? And just let the player. You're talking to the player, right? Once you get to the epilogue, you're asking the players what's going on. You're not talking to characters anymore. You're zoomed out and you're looking at every character. You're looking at characters and NPCs individually on a player level, both the players and you as the GM are zoomed out in a more like what do they call it, chessboard style play or whatever. I forget what they call it, but yeah. So it doesn't have to be you get nothing afterward.
It's not that you get like I said, it's not that you get nothing. It's your ability to interact with the thing without it like, and yes, you can like, oh yes, you can have sort of say what goes on with an NPC, for example, but you don't have, an in-depth understanding of what that NPC is. Like, you understand them in their relationship to you, right?
Yeah, but why does that matter? As long as you as a player feel like you're affecting the setting, I think that's all players care about in an epilogue type scenario.
Well, I think they care about how they affect the setting.
Right,
if they are not there, which is to say their analog is not there to affect the setting.
But they are affecting the setting. Just because the character's dead doesn't, your character died a hero and it left a big impact on this specific group of people. So this specific group of people went on to do this specific thing because of your character. Their character is still affecting the setting. Like, for example, right, if Django dies in the final fight, which obviously isn't going to happen, but if Django dies in the final fight of the current campaign, right, you literally yourself already put in a safety valve, which is that your homunculus is going to return home. And, I could say to you as a player, like, okay, so Django died, Adamus returns back to the city and finds Oak. What do Adamus and Oak do, in remembrance of Django? Or shit, maybe even like, what does Cleos end up doing after working with Django on the final project and like learning something from him? You know what I mean? Like, it's your character affecting things.
Sort of, yeah. It wouldn't feel as bad to me because I did that sort of on purpose, right? Like,
right. But
to me, Adamus is as much a part of Django as a character as the character itself.
Yeah, but I think if you're the GM at the end of the campaign and a character dies and then you say to the player, here you go, tell me what happens, I think most players will be happy with that. Like, I don't see a scenario where someone's not going to be happy with that outcome. Like, they might,
like I said, to me at least, and maybe this makes me a bad player, I don't know, I don't particularly care. It just kind of feels like a consolation prize. And again, it's not just if my character dies, right? It's if the vast majority of them, if my character dies alone, I'm like, damn, that kind of sucks. But like, yeah, I guess I have this thing that like I can sort of still call my own. But if, again, if 80% of the player base is dead, there's like I
think you're thinking about it in like a weirdly negative light. Because there's tons of stories that people love where the main character bites it at the very end, but leaves a big, huge impact. And the big, huge impact of the ending is what everybody thinks is really cool.
So again, a character, not most of them.
Right, but the main character. But if the main character bites it, right? Because when a show, you have, obviously in tabletop game, you don't have one main character, you have multiple. But there's plenty of shows where the main character dies, but leaves a huge impact. And people, to give a tangible example, that's literally the ending premise of Code Geass, sort of the ending premise of Code Geass. Lelouch is a big cheater, but point being, Lelouch dies and leaves this big, huge effect.
Lelouch dies, but like Karen and Suzaku and all of his friends are alive.
Right, but
if the only one left was Karen, you're like, damn, that's kind of somber. That's kind of dour, don't you think? It's the grimdark ending, and I like grimdark endings, but I don't want that for my game.
It might be dour, I guess, sure, but I don't think it's going to be any less satisfying from a player perspective. At the end of the day, if you
depends on the game. I think it really, like, if you're playing a game like Warhammer Fantasy, which has that kind of shit just happens that way, then yeah, I think most people would still feel satisfied. Cyberpunk is really similar, right? If you do the big final mission and one person walks out, that was kind of what the players signed up for. Yeah, and I've never like I've never shied away from death being on the table, but I've never like wanted the game. I wanted the game to have a more. I wanted it to be more Borderlands than Necromunda. You know.
I guess, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't be in a situation where like half the party dies or most of the party. Like I don't see how that's out of genre. I don't feel like it particularly is. But if you really, I mean, look, if you really don't want to. You could just make it easier, you know, like you can.
That's what this whole thing was based on. Is I don't know.
I'm saying don't, but you can. I'm saying don't. That's yes. my
the crux of this whole thing was I am worried about how I want to balance the fight. I'm not going to make it easy or anything like that, but I am sort of stressing about how I am going to balance it.
Well, I mean,
so that it's not an almost TPK level of difficulty.
I mean, if you want to guarantee everyone makes it out, then you want to make it easier. Right?
Yeah, yes, but that's not the issue.
Well, you're saying you want everyone to make it out.
I don't even necessarily want everyone to make it out. I just don't want most of them to die.
I don't know if you can fine-tune it that much. I think is the problem.
That is what's stressing me out. That right there.
Well, I think you gotta. I think you gotta let that.
I
think you gotta let that one go because I think it's impossible to fine tune. I don't think you can fine tune a tabletop game into such a degree that, you know, a couple of characters die and a couple of characters live, and you really hit that like perfect middle. I don't think you can actually do that. I think it's either going to be hard or it's going to be easy, and you just got to kind of pick which one you want to go with. You know, and then there's like turbo hard and turbo easy, but there's no I don't think there's a normal mode. I guess is what I'm getting at. Like there is, but it's really hard to hit. You know what I mean? Like, I think you just got to kind of pick which way you're going and then just go with it. Because there's too much the nature of the randomness of the hobby and the system is not gonna allow you to hit that perfect normal. It's just you just can't. You know, that's why everybody always talks about all the players started their adventure and then the wizard got crit by a goblin and died instantaneously in the first encounter because the dice were just really mean. And it's like that's how that shit goes. It's like it's almost impossible to ride that middle road. So I'm saying lean harder, but if you really don't want anyone to die, then lean easier. You have to decide which side of the fence you're looking at.
Yeah, it's like all of that to say it's still not that easy. I'm just like,
I mean, I think what I'm really saying is, fucking let it go. The cold never bothered me anyway. Like, you gotta kind of just take it as is, and then once it finishes, do the best you can with what's left over, kind of thing.
That's a lot to leave up to we'll fucking figure it out when we get there. Like,
no, not we'll figure it out when they get there. What I'm saying is,
also that's you. That cold doesn't bother you anyway. That's you is pretty typically like, fuck it, let me explode. I don't really care.
Well, yes, but what I'm saying is,
like, contemporary players.
You as a GM, well, perhaps people should be a little more nihilistic, but
that's not going to happen. You know it.
You as a GM, what I'm saying is you can't let it stress you that much. You have to just let the dice where they fall to a certain degree. Again, don't over crank it or super under crank it, but let the dice fall where they fall. And then once the dice have fallen, just kind of go with what you have there. So you have the fight, 3 out of 6 characters die. Okay, how are we going to deal with that? Or you have the fight and nobody dies. Okay, how are we going to deal with it? Like, it's not worth losing sleep over trying to dial the knobs flawlessly because the knobs will just never dial like that. Like, you got to kind of just let it go to a certain degree because randomness. You know, like,
the game really does stop being that random at those levels, though. Like,
I mean, yes, the randomness starts to the chaos plateau curves downward or sort of flattens.
Flattens,
but
is that like
the element's still there?
Game, right? we have a plus. Most of us have a plus 13 to a plus 14 to hit. At that point,
That's not true, but okay.
I have a plus 13 at least.
You do, yes.
So to me, most like contemporary creatures that aren't like big bads or wearing plate armor, I'm gonna hit no matter what.
Right, but as soon
And
as
the
you're
opposite is true.
as soon as you're talking about boss fight situations, the randomness cranks back up because numbers get big.
Even then, not by much. You know, if you're rolling sub 10, which unless you're doing like crazy fucking Great Worm level difficulty where they've got like 28 AC, most endgame bosses probably have an AC of like 22, 23, maybe 24.
I mean, I think you're way getting too into the weeds about the math, and the math is not really the point here. The broader point is that random aspect of it can cause random things to happen, and yes, the randomness can adjust and be lowered and raised with the math, but it's still there. And when you're dealing with high level PCs versus high end boss monster, the randomness that was more plateaued is going to increase again, just by virtue of high level boss monster now also has big numbers. So like, you just can't. You got like you just can't control it in that way. You're gonna like lose hair over nothing. You know what I mean? And also the randomness is part of the fun, right? Like the unexpectedness is part of the fun. It's part of the reason the tabletop is the way it is. So the unexpected outcome of, you know, holy shit, it was crazy. We did the final boss fight and 5 of the 6 characters died. That was wild. Nobody expected it to happen, but like the boss crit like crazy, and then this happened, that happened. That's all just a good story afterward. You know? Which, at the end of the day, the story afterward is sometimes the most important part of the entire campaign. Like, that's more valuable than the sessions a lot of the time.
I suppose.
It is. I mean, it like people get the excitement people get about talking about campaigns or sessions that they were in is like a whole different, it's like a whole nother level to the whole situation. Like, yeah, it was fun while we played it, but then I get to tell this random other person about what happened, and like that's even more fun. You know what I mean? So I just don't. I think you're worried. I think you're worried about something your players aren't actually worried about. That makes sense?
Potentially. I don't know. Like, and I won't really know, because even if the players tell me like, nah, man, we don't really care, you know, that could change in the moment.
Well, yeah, you won't know until it happens. But like, I have a feeling you're having more of a stress about it than anyone else is. And you gotta embrace the chaos goblins. Or again, if you really want, I mean, the other thing is, you know, you could do the forbidden jutsu and just start fudging things. You know, that's always on the table.
I've never done that once.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you can be in a situation where it's like, I don't want all right, 2-player characters died. I'm now going to fudge the dice to make sure that only those 2 died and nobody else. You know, like, you could do that. I would
could,
not.
yeah, but...
And I would not recommend it, but you could.
Yeah, I mean, even if you were to fudge dice during a final fight, I would agree with that. I wouldn't want to do that, even if I was, you know, inclined to do so.
Right, so you can't... That's where we come into the you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're not going to do that, then you have to let the control go. You know, like, you can't do both. You can't have the control.
No, you can't. Again, I think the thing is that I want to see, like, I'm stressing over how close can I get to that even ground before I have to let go. That's really the goal.
I don't know. I would be more stressed about just making sure it's cool.
Oh, I already know what I want to do for it. The
think
fight
that's
they're
more
going to do
important.
tomorrow is going to gauge really what happens. Tomorrow's session is going to be practice. Really, it's going to be the like rehearsal for the main event, because the overall flow of the fight is going to go very similar with some key differences. Yeah, I think I got that one down pat. But
I think that's the way more important thing anyway. Making sure that the last couple of sessions have like a big hit and impact. They're exciting. You know, there's a thing going on. I feel like that's the more important shit. So it's like, if you already have that covered, then everything else is sort of secondary. Also, fucking designers can't balance this shit well. So what hope do you have? You know what I mean? Like,
true.
if the people,
Some of them I'm not going to try though.
right? No, I'm not saying don't try. I'm just saying it's like, if the people who make the game can't even really tune the balance to that degree of fineness, that degree of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for there is, but like, if they can't finely tune it, then what hope do we have of finely tuning something that much? I don't know. What was the word I was looking for? Whatever. Not that
Well, I think it's like the designers. I think it's far more difficult to do it en masse, right? Because you can't account for every party comp.
No,
But I
right.
can account for my party comp, which is the thing that I'm like,
You can, and sure, like, you can do the thing where, like, oh, I know my players have a lot of fire damage, so I could make the boss weak to fire damage, and that will help leverage it in their favor. You know, you could do shit like that, yeah. Or I know my players all have really shitty wisdom saves, so I'm not going to give the boss a wisdom save ability, and that will help slightly teeter it in their favor. You can do those sorts of things. But you know, there's still like, you could overdo that very easily. So,
yeah,
you know, consider that too. I was about to say what is the plan, but then I realized you're not gonna say because they'll probably hear.
yeah, I can't. Well, because at the very least, Brett will hear it as our editor,
This is true.
and
This is
Paladin
true.
is
Gonna hear it eventually.
like less than 10 episodes behind us at this point, so he's definitely going to hear it before the fight comes. So yeah, no, I can't talk about it. What I can say is that the final boss is going to be exactly what they thought it would be. It has been the thing that has been harassing them the entire campaign.
They probably
But they
were
haven't.
coming to that conclusion anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't. If they didn't suspect that this was going to be the final fight, I don't even know what to tell you, homeboy. They're also going to find out next session. It's not like a secret
right.
what's coming, you know. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, true. They literally are going to find out next session. So it's the big lightning bird. Like,
Oh yeah, right. Because they're gonna find out tomorrow, and we're recording.
they're going to find out. Yeah, they're going to find out tomorrow. So I
Yes.
can't tell you what the mechanics are.
Right.
But yeah, so the whole idea is that, you know, it's sort of a Godzilla situation. It's just the biggest, strongest thing that feeds off the energy of the setting. So if the big storm is coming, you're just gonna juice it like you hit Godzilla with a nuke. So it's not just gonna be like just lightning anymore. It's gonna have all these different components and
Be
abilities and
plasma
whatnot.
lightning,
Yeah.
which is already
So-
like, that was a dumb sentence. Lightning's already plasma. It's fine.
Yes. But yeah, it's gonna have like crazy abilities. I'm taking bits from the top tier monsters and I'm just Frankensteining this bitch together. It's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah. All right. I mean, monster Frankensteining is definitely a tactic a lot of people use. I think the only trick there is making sure and there's no like mathed out formula for this, but you're just gonna have to do it, intuitively. But when be careful about slapping together monster abilities that perhaps create a vicious combo, or taking, like, if it's like, oh, I'm going to take this ability from Orcus and this ability from Zugat Boy, and then I'm going to put them together, and then it's like, oh, that's two really, really powerful abilities that were meant to operate by themselves, Be aware of that kind of shit, because then you will end up in a situation where you overtune it turbo hard mode.
Yeah, don't worry. At this point, I'm like, so this is kind of right. This is where it might sound a little contradictory. I am confident in my skills at this point to create like Franken monsters that are powerful, but not like, they don't typically just get dicked on by the party, and they don't maul them savagely with no chance of victory.
Right.
But it is the struggle of wanting to pull out as many stops as I can, but knowing when to be like, okay, this is gonna be bullshit. There's obviously, there are some simple rules, don't stack saving throws, because that's just fucking annoying after 20 seconds.
Stack saving throws.
Like the third round where it's like, okay, he has this ability, make a wisdom save.
Oh,
okay. Now it's your turn. Okay, now Brock's this other ability. Now everyone make me an int save. But just if the players have to make int save or have to make saves every 2 seconds, that's just fucking annoying.
Yeah.
As much as I love Yanogu, that's literally Yanogu's biggest issue, is that every time he attacks, you have to make a save about it.
Well, because it's a really easy way to make a monster dangerous.
Yeah, well, it does make it really dangerous, but it makes it the not fun difficult.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Right? You want to feel like, oh, I'm getting hit with this thing, but like, you don't want to have to feel like, oh, they did this just because mathematically I'm going to fail at some point, and that's going to, I just have to wait for that to fuck me, right? That's not fun.
Right. Well, that's why it's an effective challenge thing, because it's like, yeah, mathematically, eventually you will fail if he just keeps hitting you and hitting you and hitting you.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want that.
Yeah, well, you know what you could do? Abilities like that, you could have the sort of thing where, the monster keeps doing that, but then if you do a specific action that you can take that ability away. For example, the I forget what they're called, but the like super giants. What are they? They're like giant scions or something like that. I want to say.
The Quintessas?
No, the ones they added in Bigby's Glory of the Giants. They have these.
Oh yeah, the scions, the Strongmouths, the Menmer.
Yeah, they have these like masks or trinkets or something on them, and they have a really powerful ability as long as they have that thing. But if you destroy it, like if the players destroy it, they lose out on that ability. Yeah, so like, oh god, let's see if I could. I'm trying to like. Never Google and podcast. Which one was it? Cradle of the Hill, Scion of the Galactic. Damn, I'm not gonna be able to find one I want, of course. Like, there's one that has this like big mask thing, and if you break the mask off, they lose out on like a cool ability. So you could do something like that where the my brain. Oh, here's one. The Fire Rune. So the Fire Giant Forge Caller, which is a CR 18. The giant has a fire rune inscribed on a medallion or some other objects in its possession. While holding or wearing the object bearing the rune, the giant can use its Magma Wave action and Furnace Armor bonus action. The object bearing the rune has AC 15, 40 hit points, immunity to necrotic, poison, and psychic damage. The object regains all hit points at the end of every turn, but turns to dust if reduced to 0 hit points or when the giant dies. If the rune is destroyed, the giant can inscribe a fire rune on an object in his possession when it finishes a short or long rest. So he has these two big fuck you abilities, but if you smash that rune, he loses access to it. So that could be a way you could do the saving throw where, like, I don't know. the Thunderbird has like a save you have to, like a con save that hits you every time it attacks you, unless the players jam these like lightning rods into its wings that absorb some of its power, and then it can't hit you as hard or whatever. So you can do shit like that. That's a good way to sort of have that what's the word I'm looking for? Like have that challenge, but also temper it down so it's not as annoying, because eventually it goes away.
Yeah, eventually you're just like, well, this just sucks. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. So, but if you give the players the ability to overcome it, then it doesn't suck anymore. It's like, oh, okay, well, if we could stop it, now I'm less annoyed. You know, like if you could break Yanogu's flail, for example, then you'd be like, all right, well, this is annoying, but if we could smash the flail, then we can stop him from doing this crap. That kind of idea.
I think you may be able to disarm Yanogu. I don't actually know, but that's assuming that someone thought to be a fucking battle master and take disarming strike.
I don't know, but that sounds like even if you could, it probably wouldn't be easy.
Probably not. I mean, let's see, fucking Yanogu. Where are you?
Sure, he's got wacky woohoo stat time. You know.
Yeah, I mean.
Speaking of, I think it's very funny because your players, you said, like, knew and probably have known for a while what this, like, what the final boss is going to be. And meanwhile, I'm sitting over here like, my players have no fucking clue.
I've got some hypotheses as to what it's going to be.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. I don't know if you have enough hypotheses, or I don't know if you have enough information to fully make a hypothesis, but okay.
I mean, you can make an hypothesis with any amount of information, just whether or not you are close or hilariously off.
True. And it's kind of funny because I think this is something I've done like almost every time in my games where the final boss was not 100% clear what it was going to be. And I don't know if I'm doing that on purpose or if that's by accident, but I probably shouldn't do it as much as I have in hindsight.
I was going to say, like, it's that one of those things where if the players never know, like, what they're up against.
I'm trying to think.
It's so let's put it this way. There are degrees of not knowing what you're up against, right? Like,
right.
It was pretty clear in Ant's, like, original Fire Emblem game that we were going to fight the, like, evil king dude and on his dragon, and it was going to be this, like, knockdown drag out fight. We didn't really know what the guy had, right? Because, most characters and most final bosses in Fire Emblem might just turn out to be dragons in the end, and then you got to fight a big ass dragon after you kicked their humanoid form's ass. With Chris's, we were almost certainly going to fight just like waves of super powerful demon lords. Curse of Strahd, we knew we were going to fight Strahd, but no one knew what Strahd could do. Like, we didn't know that there was a dungeon before fighting Strahd, or I didn't at least. So, like, presumably we're going to fight the shepherd in some way, shape, or form, or something that she summoned, like she just gets slapped across the room and then it's an actual thing that you have to fight, a la fucking Prototype.
Yeah.
Or not Prototype, Dead Space.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back into the recesses of my brain. I think for a couple of my games, the final boss, I didn't even know what it was going to be, and then I ended up making a decision on the fly, so there's that. But, I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to think. The funny thing is, though, is I don't actually... I'm going against my own preferences in storytelling, so I don't know why I keep ending up doing this, but this is where I am, I guess. I don't know. Because I'm the kind of person, and I've said this a billion times, maybe not on recording, but in casual conversation, I always like it when a villain is ever present in a series, show, game, book, whatever. I like when the villain is known and there and fucking with the characters at all times and is like you don't forget about the villain, which is why, I mean, it sounds like I'm memeing, but that's why I unironically think Father Pucci in JoJo Part 6 was like an amazing villain, because his presence was constantly a factor and he genuinely felt like he is the problem, you know? Yeah, so like the fact that I have obscured my villains in so many of my games is kind of dumb, and I don't know why I keep doing it now that I'm thinking about it. And I should probably make a conscious effort not to do that. But, you know, shit happens when dice hit the table, I guess. I don't know. One of those weird things. I have a lot of weird habits like that, though, when it comes to running games. Like, I've talked about before how I have my weird problem where I'll have my game idea will be one thing, and then the game turns into a completely different thing halfway through because I sort of forgot what my original idea was, and then I don't stick to it and all this. That probably goes along with the villain thing, TBH.
Well, let's put it this way. Do you think that with the information that we as players have, that we could reasonably guess what the final fight would be at this point in the game?
Could you reasonably guess? It's a good question. Maybe, but you have limited information, so like maybe you could guess, but it would be tough for sure. Because part of the reason is because I didn't have the idea until probably halfway through the game, maybe later. So yeah, so like, could you? Maybe, yeah. I mean, you maybe could if you strung a couple of concepts together and thought about it a little bit, and sort of if you pulled the red strings and started putting them on the board a little bit, maybe. But or you might be able to actually no. Let me phrase it. You might be able to guess the concept of what the final fight is. I don't know if you're going to be able to guess the specific thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, it's fine if we can't guess. Again, said that twice. But in the what the fuck is that guy's name? Oh god damn it. Hold on. What the fuck was this goober's name? Michaelis. Yeah. So in Fire Emblem, the final, because it's based on Fire Emblem, we were like actual Fire Emblem characters were part of the game.
Right.
The final boss was a dude named Michaelis, who is the brother of one of the hero characters in the first game, a dragon rider named Minerva. If Michaelis turned into a dragon randomly, we would not have known that, but because we know so much about Fire Emblem, we wouldn't be surprised by it, right? Like, okay,
right.
Here's a perfect example. Of like something that we could not have figured out and there was no information on it up to the point. In the Wildmount game I was playing, we were like, one of the players whole thing is he fights the like king of not Wildmount as a continent, but like the specific country where the humans come from. Not Xhorhas, what's the other one? Regardless, the whole thing, like for weeks, the players and me, because I was guesting, were like planning on taking this dude down and strategizing how we were going to take the capital, and we were going to fight this guy. We were going to kill his guards and like his pet monster, and then we were going to like, a gun to head, surrender your throne, right?
Right.
And throughout it's like, oh, he's just this he used to be like this super strong warrior, a la like a guts type, right? Or like a fucking Skull Knight. He was just this unrivaled physical fighter. He didn't use magic or anything like that. He just relied on his like martial prowess. We were like, okay, we know he's got like wizards around him, so we're probably gonna have to fight them. Like there were named characters from Exandria. And then we got there, we fought those guys, surrounded him, and then he turned into a great worm randomly.
Oh. Okay.
He just turned into a Great Worm and then flew off and was like, "I'm gonna be the post game, like the post campaign raid boss." And everybody was like, "What the fuck? That's stupid. Why? Why would you do that? What was this ass pull? That didn't make any fucking sense."
So there was nothing to hint at him being a dragon.
No, and it's literally just because, as far as I'm aware, Big Bees had come out like the month before, and the GM was like, "Well, this book is awesome," and he like just started putting a bunch of shit from Fizzbands in the game.
You said Big Bees before.
My bad. Yeah, but yeah, we just put a bunch of shit from Fizzbands in the game, and then it just felt like an ass pull, right? There was no way it wouldn't feel like an ass pull.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, relative to that example, I think I've given you guys more information than that. Let's put it this way. Your reaction will probably be, I didn't guess that, but I'm also, like you said, I might not have guessed that, but I'm also not surprised that it is that.
Yeah, then that's fine.
That's probably what it will be.
Because it's the whodunit, right? You might not have guessed who the person in the whodunit was, but as long as you had the tools to have gotten there in the first place, then you just like kind of shake the hand.
Yeah, I don't know if I've given you all of the tools. I probably, if I had planned my endpoint a little bit better, there probably I would have been able to sprinkle better things along the road. But like I said, because some of the idea kind of came partway through, missed the boat a little bit on that. But, you know.
It's really fun. Whenever, like, so I made the giant Thunderbird as like a random encounter hazardous environment situation.
Yeah.
But the second I got that like overwhelming response of like, that was fucking insane, fuck that thing, I never want to have to deal with that piece of shit again.
Right,
I was like,
right.
Well,
You're like,
now I know that this is the last thing you're ever gonna fight. This is just what I'm going to do to you now, Lamau.
Yeah, that happens a lot. There's things happen in a game where you're like, I wasn't planning on this mattering, but suddenly
That's
the entire epitome of Rebellion's character in my game.
Yeah.
He wasn't gonna matter, and now he matters a lot, and now I have all these new ideas for what to do with him, and now I'm like, oh, now I'm weirdly into this. I'm into this character I made by accident.
Bro, you are preaching to the fucking choir. My players with the hyena dude, with the scientist characters, with fucking Gariel the Gator Man, literally all of them, I was like one-off bad guys and, you know, maybe characters they could convince in the case of the scientists.
Right.
But I expected them to murk Barker the fucking hyena man and just like, you know, hashtag done and dusted and never look at him again.
And they said, what if friend-shaped?
Yeah, what if friend?
Yeah.
And now he's gonna fight the second to last boss with him and maybe die horribly.
God. See, they'll probably be more disappointed about him dying than their characters dying.
They might, yeah. That is a
good chance. Good chance.
Like, you can't believe you killed our boy. It's like,
yeah. What do you think? What do you think? Let me posit a hypothetical. Both of us are let's just, in this hypothetical scenario, both of us are god tier GMs with precognition abilities, right? And we plan from session 1 to session 50 or whatever, and we know how we want to wrap it and everything, and we actually write things down and plan it out from point A to point B, which neither one of us do. Right? What do you think the best way to, and I know this is a broad topic because there's different kinds of stories, but what do you think the best way to really wrap shit is? Like, if you had ultimate control and you could really, you know, book that shit out. Obviously, not the final out. Let me clarify. Not the final outcome, right? Obviously, the final outcome is going to be dictated by players. But what I mean is, like, the best way to build into that climactic point. Like, how do we get there?
I mean, it's really hard to beat the Critical Role Campaign 1 ending of like having all the guests show up, and you know, it's the get the boys together, but it's more tangible because there are actual new play, like your friends in players at the table, and maybe they all get to do a thing. And there'd be like lead up into this, right? Like maybe the guest players get in for their own private like 3 shots to like set stuff up, and then they could have effects on things. and then you have the players come in and then, you know, like come into the Discord in this case, and then leave the Discord when they're done, and then everybody can kind of come in at the end, or, you know, they can come in, but they have to stay muted when they're out of the scene, and then after the end, everyone kind of comes together in like unmutes, and they get to talk about all the things they liked and all that.
Okay. That's like on the meta level, but from the in-game story aspect, what do you feel like is the best way to like bring things, you know?
Oh, it's the you know, those same guest players doing the like, you go on ahead, I'll take care of this. So like you kind of you roll up with it, a veritable basically army, and then they get whittled down by, you know, holding up the bad guys or getting stuck in choke points. So the players can get to the final fight. It basically the end of Nier Automata, like ending of Nier Automata, right? Where like all of the what are they called? The scavengers start fighting all the resistance. They start going, and Popola and Devola like go off to get you to the tower, and then they start fighting, and they like kind of, you know, they die at the end. They just fall in battle. That's like my ideal ending.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about that. The
Avengers assemble, like
right. Yeah, you're talking about making things culminate in such a way that the players can effectively look back at all the steps they've taken up to this point and being like, we did that thing, that's why this guy's here, and that thing, that's why this guy's here, and this guy's gonna help us with that because we did the other thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's almost like. Almost like you're sort of cheating and tapping into the nostalgia of your own campaign by being like, remember when this MP showed up, and then I remember when that MP showed up.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's what I would want, right? Like,
same thing Final Fantasy 14 did. Same thing Baldur's Gate 3 does. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's. I think it's a common enough thing that's what everybody wants. And like, yeah, is it cliche? Yeah, but that's when you get to a whole other conversation of like, cliches are cliches for a reason, right? They are good.
I mean, it's almost literally what I did with our game right now. So actually pretty much is literally what I did. Right? Like, I had you guys elect the homies for the final charge, because if you didn't have the help, you couldn't do it thing. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely, I fall in mostly a similar boat. I think for me, like, yes, doing it, sort of getting allies and stuff, and reminding, nostalgia baiting your own campaign. I think the other thing, though, too, is making sure that things, like wrapping stuff in such a way that it ties to the main conflict, I think is really important, because I hate, you know, and this is where you get into that weird thing where it's like, yeah, but that's not how real life works. And it's like, yeah, I know, but at the same time, I hate when there's a game. This is more of a video game problem, but shows and stuff sometimes do it too, where the main characters sort of do a thing, you know, like a side quest style thing, and then it ends, and that story was just its own little bubble and didn't matter, didn't affect the thing, and doesn't wrap up when you get towards the end in any way. That always bugs me a little bit, you know?
So you're sort of describing the cyberpunk, maybe this is for no, like the 40k cyberpunk, like,
kinda,
this is ultimately for no reason, but it mattered to me.
Kinda, but the thing about cyberpunk is, I think with something like with a cyberpunk, it's okay. It makes sense because the setting of cyberpunk is the idea that you're doing all these little bespoke jobs, but you're meeting people along the way, you're making relationships along the way. So the sort of final culmination of stuff still has a satisfying feeling, because even if the people aren't directly involved, they had an influence on you via their, like, in Edge Runners, you know, were there episodes where they kind of did nothing? Yes, but the point of those episodes was about the relationship between, like, Maine and David, you know, between David and Lucy. It was like those all affected David's decision making at the end. So it still has a culmination towards the final thing kind of thing. Whereas, for example, there's the Red Bear. I'm sure you've heard about this. The Red Baron quest line in Witcher 3.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, okay. So, like, it's a really cool quest line, and it's very interesting, but once it wraps, it doesn't... Like, I guess you could argue it sort of affects Geralt a little bit as a character, but not really, because, you know, he's Geralt. He's just kind of... He is how he is for the most part. And it doesn't really matter very much. Like, it's a good quest line on its own, but at the end of the day, it's like it doesn't have anything to do with the Wild Hunt. It doesn't have anything to do with a personal relationship Geralt has with anybody, right? Like, you meet this guy who you sort of learn about, but he's not literally, he has no actual relationship. He's not like Geralt's friend or Geralt's cousin or some shit. So that kind of stuff always bugs me. So I like in a tabletop sense when the GM is always being like, this thing I'm gonna tie back, you know, for example, and I don't even care if you do it kind of cheaply. Like, for example, the way Matt did in his campaign was the Teeth of the Dragon thing, right? Like, all of these random little things that happened, they were essentially just plot coupons that came back in later, but plot coupons is still plot coupons, right? They still matter at the end of the day. It's like, oh yeah, this weird mission we did that seemed really unrelated, but hey, we got the one of the teeth from it, so it was important. You know, like, even if you do it that way, I don't care. As long as it feels like it all really meets up together.
Yeah, so it depends, right? So, like, if I'm playing... A better example, right, is if you're playing Wrath and Glory, right? And you're doing the all-guardsman party, and you know that, like, ultimately, if you stop, let's say, like, a Necron Tomb World from opening up on, you know, fucking Bingabungus the planet, right? Ultimately, the Imperium is going to snuff that thing out no matter what. But what matters to you as the players is, like, maybe, you know, there's a great bit in one of the books where a character's like, you know, this place fucking blows, or like this is gonna suck, right? This none of this means anything. And it's like, well, why are you staying then? It's like, because I like the coffee shop here. Actually, sorry, no, it's not Warhammer. It's Helsing, actually. It's so did you watch Helsing Ultimate? You watched the abridged, right?
I have not watched either.
Okay. So there's a bit at the very end, like when Millennium is attacking the Helsing Manor, and the French dude with the big ponytail and the eye patch, he's sort of like waxing poetic about why he's here fighting. And he basically is like, you know, there was this cheap bar and the beer sucked, but the atmosphere was nice and the guys liked it. There was a brothel here and all the girls were ugly as hell, but they were always really nice to us and gave us good prices. There's a fish and chips place that I used to go to, and I hate fish and chips, but the waitress there used to give me way too much food, and I always scarfed it down because of the look on her face, made me happy. Like, those stories are great because the characters, you're going like, this is ultimately nothing, but it's everything to me, and I love those kinds of stories. It's a very mecha approach to things, right? Like,
well, yeah, I wasn't when I was saying I want things to wrap towards the final conflict, I wasn't saying it had to be big. The final conflict could just be, don't burn down our coffee shop, please. As long as it's the final conflict to the group. That's all I'm talking about. Like, yeah, I don't care the size of it. In fact, sometimes smaller is better. Actually, most of the time I think smaller is better. I generally don't like things getting too big and out of control. Like, as soon as a plot gets beyond end of the world and starts getting into like universes and spaces are going to explode and galaxies are going to, I'm like, all right, nope, too much. But yeah, the smallness and or the size of it can be anything, as long as it just feels like it culminated to a thing and didn't have these sort of wonky, why did we bother with this other thing when it wasn't important kind of vibe to it. Because yeah, I agree. Why are you protecting this town if it sucks? And it's like, well, I like the coffee shop over there, so fuck you. I do like stuff like that. Shit, I had another thing I was gonna say, now I forgot.
There's actually there's a good 40K book that's the whole story of just small victories and failures, because it's called Gaunt's Ghosts, and the reason why they're called Gaunt's Ghosts, it's the Commissar Gaunt only ever had one company of troops, because they came from the planet Tanith, which is space Ireland, or space Scotland, because they all wear kilts. And it was the first and only company before the planet was attacked by chaos and destroyed. So as the books go on, there's fewer and fewer of the ghosts remaining until there's just 5 of them, and they are literally the only things left of the planet Tanith that will ever exist. And I love that, where it's like, oh, we made it home from a mission and there's 3 less of us. Well, at least there's still more of us, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that works too. Yeah, it doesn't, yeah, most of the time, tight personal stories are honestly better. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about the Yakuza games is, at the end of the day, you kind of zoom out, and the Yakuza games are really just, God, somebody just leave Kiryu alone. You know, like, if Kiryu just fucked off and moved to America, his life would be way better. But he sticks around.
Yeah, almost certainly.
He sticks around. I mean, I forget. I think it's the 6th Yakuza game is literally just about Kiryu protecting the orphanage he runs. Like, that's the whole game. And wacky hijinks ensue because Yakuza.
You know what's what's an ending I really like, despite how it's the exact opposite of what I described.
Oh, okay.
It's the ending to Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Okay.
Which there's a lot of context. I'm gonna TLDR it really fucking hard, so just hang on and hold your neck from the whiplash. So the whole part about IBO is finding family and going through loss. So as the show goes on, obviously the Iron-Blooded Orphans, the
orphans in question,
the Tekadon squad, or they're called Tekadon. As the more of them die, the main character pushes himself harder and harder in Barbados, right, to the point where it looks less and less like a standard mobile suit and looks more and more like the demon it's named after. And in its second to last form, its horns get all jagged and tall, and it changes its feet out for the battle pumps, as you call them.
I do love me some battle pumps.
And then in its final form, it just doesn't use weapons anymore. It just gets these hyper reinforced metal claws and a tail blade. And it only turns out like that when the main character's basically brother dies, and Mika just gives himself over to being a monster. And the final episode is about him taking out squadrons on top of squadrons of these fucking mobile suits. And he's the mobile suit loses its arm, its face gets destroyed, it's barely holding itself together, and he still loses. He gets wrecked at the end. But it was just he died, but the whole reason for his death was, I died to make a statement, which is blows you away. It's such a powerful statement to make of this is what happens when you make, war victims out of children. Because you're just making monsters at the end of the day, and it would fucking... IBO has its issues, really, sad baiting you by this character being I want to go out to the beach tomorrow, and then they just fucking die horribly, and you're like, that sucks. And then someone else says something that's clearly death flaggy, and you're like, well, they're just not going to make it after that. They're just done. They're just done. And then they do die. Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, it being sad and brutal and stuff doesn't mean you can have sad and satisfying. You can do both. I hate it. The thing that pisses me off is when you get sad and unsatisfying.
Yeah, that particularly sucks balls.
Which I can't. Which was part of my beef with how Edge Runners ended, is I didn't feel like it was totally satisfying. It wasn't totally pointless, but it didn't feel as satisfying as it could have. That's for sure.
No, well, so, yeah, I mean, I think it really matters where your goalpost for what the satisfying was, because if you, for me at least, when you look at it from they went out like Night City Legends,
right.
You know,
They went out like
doing
Legends.
damage to Arasaka, get it like making it so that even Atom Smasher had to respect his skill,
like
and tenacity.
I get it. It's like they went out as Legends and Lucy went to the moon. Those are the two main like satisfaction things. But it's just like, I mean, it was okay. I don't know. You know, like, could have done better, but I'll take it. You know, I don't know. I'm not gonna go on a Edge Runners rant because I have all sorts of feelings about the ending of that show. Yeah, but also I think is actually speaking of, on the satisfaction point of thing, I think it's pretty easy in a lot of ways to make an ending satisfying for your players in a tabletop sense, as long as you let them really do something with that epilogue, you know? I think that's why the epilogues really has to be important, because, you know, if you're writing a book, you as the author can just wrap things how you want to wrap things, but in tabletop, you know, there's 5 of us who all have different ideas for how we want things to wrap up. So it's like, you got to epilogue something so everyone feels like, okay, I had an ending. Because you can do abrupt endings, right? There are books, shows, video games, etc., where something happens really, really abruptly, and it's like, that's it. That's how it goes. It's over. But I don't know. I feel like, I don't want to say you can't do it in tabletop, but man, I don't know. It seems like doing something really abrupt like that in tabletop is just tough.
I mean,
I don't know how.
I'm gonna be real. I fully expected that to be how your game ends, straight up.
Perhaps I'm showing my hand.
Because I figured we were gonna fight whatever we're gonna fight at the end, and then walk into the void, and then it's. I expected the you didn't watch this, the ending to the real ending to Red versus Blue, where the whole thing with Church is that he's like, well, you'll never, you know, the whole thing about going out like a, you know, going out before the scene ends, that you'll never know if your friends actually made it out or not, and then he just goes. He laughs and says, "Ain't that a bitch?" and fades away, and that's just a cut to black.
Right.
That was like, I was I mad that we weren't going to get a new season? Absolutely. But narratively, you couldn't have ended it better than you couldn't have. It was perfect.
Interesting. Okay.
So I expected it to be like, we kill the final thing, turn around, see the portal close behind us, and go, "Ain't that a bitch?" And then it's just cut to black. And that would have been fine for me, because, right, like, we know, because we've set it up this way, that our characters are going to get out in the future. That's basically what was good enough for me.
I see. Interesting. Yeah, that was the plan for a little while, but then I had a little extra inkling of a thing, and I was like, yeah, that'll probably work. So, yeah, because I think the important thing is handing over that narrative power for a little bit, you know, because in a traditional tabletop setup, which is to say, you know, 4 to 6 players and a GM, you as the GM have this narrative power, and the players have the little narrative ability, like they have the narrative power within their own little bubble, but they generally don't have the power to, like, what's the word? It's like they can affect their environment. They can affect their environment in a very small radius around them, but they can't go much beyond that radius. And then you as the GM can affect all that other environment that they are not touching. But I think having an epilogue thing is a way that you can hand over that environmental aspect of the narrative to the players. I don't know if environment's the right word here, but whatever. Hand over that environmental aspect to the players and let them kind of just play with it just a little bit right at the end there. Because at the end of the day, you know, I said this before, but, you know, it's the ending, right? It's the end. So it kind of doesn't matter if they do something buck wild because it's okay. It's the end, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, that's why I think it's good to hand it over there at the very end, just to give the players that little taste, that little bit of a moment to feel like, yes, I left an impact on a thing. Even though, in the grand scheme of things, it's just funny, haha, clicky clack story that exists in our heads and nowhere else. And so in the grand scheme of things, it does not matter at all. But it matters in the moment, so you make it. There's a weird, it's a weird thing. Tabletop's a weird thing. Very strange.
Yeah.
Like, it's honest. It's kind of an exercise in peak nihilism in a weird way. Because
you mean peak nihilism? You mean the nothing matters, so everything matters kind of way?
Peak nihilism in the nothing matters, so do whatever the fuck you want, go wild kind of way.
Mm.
Yeah, the fun kind of. I'm a big fan of the fun kind of nihilism, not the shitty kind of nihilism.
Yeah,
where
it's fuck it, go buck wild kind of nihilism.
Yeah, right. Where it's like nothing matters, so chill the fuck out and just do whatever. that's kind of what I'm seeing. Because in the grand scheme, when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, this campaign we all played in is a thing that only exists in our minds. And then we're going to wrap it up, and probably it won't exist in any other form other than like the notes I've taken and in our memories. And that's a very strange, ephemeral thing. And humans have an obsession with, leaving legacies of things, and you kind of can't with tabletop. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thought. I'm going down a weird rabbit hole. And then you morph that whole thing when you record it as like an actual play, and now it's kind of existed in this different form, but it still is not the exact same form as the game you all played. It's the recording of the game you all played. I'm not gonna go further down this.
You're bringing yourself down a recursive edge loop, bud. This is gonna be bad.
Well, there's like, I don't know. There's interesting ideas about the ephemeralness of it, but yes, I'm not going to. I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, you're gonna short your brain on. It's all right. No.
I don't know about short my brain out, but I might babble a bit. Yeah.
like I said, it's a recursive edge loop. It brings you. It's not a recursive edge loop. It's a recursive loop. I can't remember what it's called in JavaScript, but you run yourself through the loop so many times that you just fucking go cross-eyed.
Yeah, kind of. Well, it is an interesting, like, philosophical thought experiment. In the sense that you can never really come to any kind of answer, but you can talk about it a lot, and it's intriguing, even though you don't have an answer to come to. Like the same reason that when you get really hammered with the boys and you're like, so what is the meaning of life? And then you talk about that for 2 hours. You don't get any closer to an answer, but you did it anyway. It's a very
similar. Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's a similar energy. You know what I mean? Or like when or all the memes where it's like the girlfriend being like, I bet he's off cheating on me with another girl, and it's just me and the boys. So you think you could take a gorilla in a fight if you had like just a stick? Right? Like, and then you talk about that for 2 hours. Did you get any closer to an answer? No, because you're not gonna fight a fucking gorilla, but you did it. You talk about it anyway.
It's the how many sixth graders do you, or how many fifth graders do you could reasonably take down before you get taken down instead?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same energy. Are you gonna fight 500 fifth graders? No. So why are we bringing this up? I don't know.
I like that every answer to that question always ends up with, so what you do is you take one fifth grader and you use them as an improvised weapon. That is without fail where that goes.
Somebody comes to that conclusion at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. You can take a lot more of them if you have extra like mass to swing.
It's an effective method. What can I say? You when the barbarian doesn't have a weapon, you use the halfling. That's all.
Yeah. We had in my first campaign, we had a thing we called, I think it was either called human cannonball or human flashbang, but like back when a buddy of mine, used to play in the campaign with us, he played so dwarves weren't allowed. But he was a dude who had dwarfism.
Okay, I like that loophole.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
So the orc would throw him into a pile of bad guys, and he would hold his action and then thunderclap the second that he got within range of everybody.
Okay.
So he'd
All right.
we just yeet the fucking dwarf into a fucking
Crowd of dudes.
the human flashbang or human cannonball.
That's a very similar maneuver. Very similar maneuver to the fastball special.
Fastball special. What do we do for that again?
No, the fastball special is the thing where Hulk throws Wolverine at somebody.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Marvel Comics thing. Because he, like, I don't remember why, but there was an enemy far away, and Wolverine's like, I need to get over there. So Hulk yeeted him, and then that just became a thing in Marvel Comics. So much so that other characters have done it and also called it the fastball special. Like, there's a panel I've seen of She-Hulk doing it with Wolverine, and she's complimenting his ass while she's throwing him.
The one that I think of is it's the Ant-Man on Hawkeye's arrow.
On the arrow. Yeah, that's another good one. Similar idea. I need to get over there really, really fast.
Yeah, it's we had the bigger version of that, which I call Operation Rocket Man, where we
Yes, of course.
we all just climbed on the door on the orc because we didn't want to do the GM's encounters. We just were like, nope, I don't want to do that, and therefore I just won't.
Every time you bring that up, I just think about how fucking salty I would have been. I don't know if I could have handled that one.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I would have been
I
sitting
would
there
have felt
like,
bad, but I still would have done it. Like,
I know, but I would have been sitting there like, well, I guess session's over because there goes all my fucking prep. You know?
I think you wouldn't have been proud of us for figuring that out, for just fucking
I would have been
forcing that into existence.
I mean, it would have been something, but I would have been real annoyed afterward and not know what to do at that point. You know? Especially if that was like, I expected to burn 3 hours on that, event.
In our defense, that would not have been a one session. That would have been like a month of sessions.
True.
Just fighting like
Up and up.
manticores and Weavern riders and fucking Abishai. We were just like,
No,
we don't want to do this
think I
quest anymore.
Yeah.
We just kind of want to be done. So no.
I think there was a larger set of things going on there, a deeper well of trauma than just that one moment. But yeah.
Yeah, no, we had to learn how to survive, which includes and is not limited to just lying about the amount of spell slots we have.
Yeah. There's a lot going on there.
just straight up cheating. Just
Yeah, I get it.
What? No, I only cast Fireball 3 times. Me looks cast it 6 times.
6,
You'll never find out.
Keeping a tally. That's a lot of fireball.
Yeah.
All right. You have anywhere else to take us?
Absolutely not.
All right. Well, this is what happens when you have no notes, kids. Take notes.
Yeah, look, in Josh's defense, Matt got sick, so and told us 2 hours ago, or 2 hours before recording that he couldn't record, so we had to really fighting for our lives on that one.
Correct. Also, I forgot to say it before, but hey, if you got this far, hit the follow or subscribe button, or share us with a friend. I don't care about Twitter anymore.
Oof. What did it do to you this time?
Nothing. It just exists. It just is. I just hate it. I'm so done. And I was done. Listen, I was done before the muskrat invaded. I just fucking shit's dumb.
Muskrat. I like that you've also picked it up now. Nice.
It works. I mean, look, I also just don't like social media in general. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's fun. I remember when Facebook first came out, and I thought it was real cool. And then, I turned 16, and I was like, wait a minute, this is dumb. Never mind.
I feel like I remember when everyone migrated to Instagram being like,
yeah,
wow, that really sucks. I don't like taking pictures. Like,
yep.
Of myself at least, and I'm not gonna go out of my way to take like I like photography, but it's not a hobby of mine.
Yeah, I feel you.
And something like, and if it was, I wouldn't post it all over the place. It would be like a hobby.
Right. Yeah. That doesn't exist anymore. People don't do hobbies for themselves anymore, Isaiah. You only do hobbies for the clout.
Bruh, I don't know what you're talking about. I have so many Gundam that I have made that nobody knows about unless they've been to my house to see them.
I know. I'm saying.
I think I have 3 people total that I share Gunpla pics with.
That is a genuine problem these days where people can't just do a hobby for themselves. Why are we talking about this? What am I doing? Do you get that weird thing? Do you ever get that thing where Facebook's like, here's a memory of something you shared in the past, and I look at it and go, when the fuck did I say that, and why did I say that?
No, but I go, I read it and then I be like, do you want to share this? And I'm like, absolutely
not.
Nobody's business.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna share this dumb shit I said. Fuck no. Because I'd be looking at him like, man, I was just posting dumb random shit sometimes. What the fuck was I up to as a teenager?
Pretty much, yeah. That's the same.
That's fucking cringe, mate. You goddamn like.
Yeah. Why are you so fucking cringe?
Yeah. Gonna get a shame.
Can't take a shame. To anybody, if you're here at this point,
I don't know why you're still here.
What the fuck is his name?
I don't remember.
Oh no. Not Craig Ferguson, because he's another Scottish comedian who I find hilarious.
All them Scots.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
Oh god.
Can't tell the Scots apart. Shamed.
Oh god, what is his name?
I got nothing, bro. You're swimming alone. I ain't got no life vest for you, Chief.
Kevin Bridges, that's it. His name is Kevin Bridges. Look up Kevin Bridges. He's funny as hell. He's from Glasgow, so good luck understanding what he's saying.
Yeah, half of it you're gonna.
I got most of it, but even then there's stuff where I'm like,
yeah.
What did you just say? But yeah, that's all I got.
There's our recommendation for the episode. Go watch.
Yeah, watch Kevin Bridges stand up. He's great.
Watch stand up in general. Stand up's great. Big fan.
True.
Okay.
Oh, apparently Dragunov got revealed for Tekken 8. I know.
Said that, but yes, he did.
I am on YouTube at the moment.
Okay.
We're
gonna wrap up now because this is getting worse.
I think you should just bathe in the chaos, Doro Hidoro style.
No. Goodbye. Good night. Go to bed. If you're listening and it's late, go to bed. If you're already in bed, fall asleep. What are you doing?
Big fucking oof.
If you're at work, I'm sorry.